Calvin T. Mann, leading EMIY, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Hey, good evening. Glad to be back on. Today is a special day. We've been doing well with our campaign. I'm excited about that, but I'm also excited. How you doing, brother? Brother Bud?
I'm doing good.
Yes, sir. It's good to be in the building with a fellow brother, good fathers only, and always good to see you. I'm excited, man. Today is a good day. My friend and brother Kevin Fischer is on, and we're gonna talk some solutions, some suicide, and in the second half we're gonna really get off into the stigma. This is his big message, and it's pretty powerful. And so I want to really get into that process. But first, in the news today. All right. Some good news, right? We're getting ready. We're at the countdown for the EMIY Future Leaders Mentoring Program. For those who, mothers with sons who, and families with sons who want to really, how do I put it? If you really want to do something with your son, the next 14 weeks is possible. We will be going Sunday, September 19th from 2 to 5, and then Monday, 6 to 8. On our time on Mondays, we will be doing financial literacy. Chase is on board to teach financial literacy for the next 14 weeks. So your son will be, and your family will be learning financial literacy. We're excited about that, especially for our boss, Building Our Sons, our parental involvement program. We love the parents, right? We got a very high involvement, and we do some things. And this year we're going to do some exciting things. We're going to really do a lot of work. We're going to work the parents. We're going to work the kids. And at the end of this session, right around December, we're going to celebrate. And the reason being is we see young men go from one level to the next in 14 weeks. So we're very, very proud of that work. Again, September 19th, if you are a parent out there looking for a mentoring program, hit EMIWorld.com, fill out the two applications, the parent application and the EMIY Future Leaders application right online. We'll get that. If not, we'll see you Sunday, where we'll be live, open and ready to roll, introducing ourselves, meeting the mentors and the mentees and the parents alike. So we thank you for that. And I really want to add this last piece. Somehow, some way, I'm gonna get this video shot. For real. A lot of people running, right? They hear the song, and next thing you know, they take off running. But we're going to get this video shot. But I'm excited about today. Today is, again, this is Suicide Prevention Month. Last week we weren't here.
Nope, it was a holiday.
It was a holiday. And so today we're gonna really get into some things with my friend and brother Kevin, and this Suicide Prevention Month. And so just to give you an update, we are doing 10,000 gifts of encouragement, and with that, we're now down to 9,843. We are consistently one, two, like every day, someone is buying a gift, and we're gonna gain that momentum going forward. With that being said, what's up, Kevin Fischer?
My brother, how you doing today?
Man, just I'm in a great mood. Had a great call, got some great information, and it's always good to learn more. I think, Kev, that's the thing that I think that I most definitely am excited about is each and every day learning something new, growing in this process, and just glad to be here, man.
But all of us need to value that. All of us need to value the opportunity to learn something new every day and to apply that because it will make us all better people, better community, better country. Um, Everything gets improved. So I love that philosophy of yours. Every day is a new day. It's a gift to learn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm tired. I've been on the road since 7 this morning. I had to go to Traverse City. Now I'm in Lansing. Forgive my surroundings. I'm in a hotel room in Lansing. You know me. I get around. But wait. Before we get into that, you have to forgive me because this is your show. Don't you have some other news to share with our guests? Didn't you have a milestone recently?
What milestone?
Did you have a birthday?
Oh, that's tomorrow, brother.
Oh, it's tomorrow.
It's
Okay, then.
tomorrow,
All right.
brother.
All right. I'd
Yes,
rather be
sir.
early than late then.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you on point. It is tomorrow. I'll be
Yeah.
turning. I'll be turning 35 again for the third time. And
You're doing it well, brother. I
so
just wanted
yes,
to make sure everybody knew.
yes. Tomorrow is that day. Tomorrow, yes, sir. I'm very, very proud. I was just kicking it with one of my first kids I ever coached. Right, and he came by. Right, so when I first started coaching, everybody they called me Bubs. Right, so that was my nickname
Mhm.
because that's what everybody knew me as. Then, as a transgressed, it became Coach. Right, so he stopped by and we had some conversation. He said he gonna come out tomorrow because I invited a few people to just join me at Como's tomorrow at Ferndale 6 and just stop by and say hello, wave,
Cool.
let me see your face, smile. You don't have to stay. I just want to see people laugh. You know what I mean? I just
Cool.
think we need more laughter, and so that's what I want for my birthday. And so we meeting at
Absolutely.
Como's at 6 tomorrow. But yeah, so I really want you to tell us because you guys, man, this NAMI is bigger than what people know, right? So, in research and being online and doing more, like I was blown away how many chapters, how many people, right? And
hmm
and, and here you are, NAMI of Michigan. So tell people about NAMI and what it's really all about.
So, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We are the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization that is purely dedicated to improving the lives of everyone affected by mental illness. So, not just people who live with a mental health diagnosis, but their families, their caregivers, and really the community at large, because we know, frankly, everybody's affected by mental illness. Everybody, if it's not you and it's not in your immediate family, you know somebody. You go to church with somebody, you work with somebody, somebody's kids are affected by it. So I like to say we are all affected by mental illness. NAMI's been around for over 40 years. I think we started in 1979. Um, and I've been a part of NAMI since late 2010, early 2011, and um, my oldest son Dominique was affected by mental illness in 2007. He was diagnosed with very serious mental illness, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. And unfortunately, in on June 27th of 2010, we lost him to suicide. So my family learned very quickly and quite frankly in a very harsh manner how little we knew about mental illness, how little we knew about treatment, resources, all of those things that NAMI is all about making sure people are aware of, because I always say stigma is the leading barrier that prevents people from seeking the behavioral health care help that they need, whether it's mental illness, suicide prevention, intellectual developmental disabilities, autism spectrum disorders. I mean, you name it, substance use disorders, all of that ties to mental illness. And the stigma is simply that we treat mental illness or behavioral health disorders as if it's a personal weakness, like somebody chose to let this affect their lives.
Right.
Mental illness is a medical diagnosis, it is a chemical imbalance in the brain. So we have to get past that stigma. But once you get past the stigma, then you have to know you need to know how to ask for help. You need to know what resources are available to you. And then you have to be willing to participate in your treatment plan. I lost my son when he stopped participating in his treatment plan. And Dominique stopped participating because of stigma. He was ashamed. He didn't want his friends to know. The people who did know, many of them with no malice intent, treated him like he was damaged.
Right.
And he recognized that having a mental illness does not mean you're less intelligent. And my
Right.
son taught me that. And I know some of the most talented, educated, smartest people who walk the face of this earth have lived with mental health challenges, whether it was Albert Einstein, um, and so many, Beyonce talks about it, Jay-Z talks about it, um, uh, you know, uh, our good friend Royce the 5'9". There are so many people, Eminem, everybody talks about it. But we need to do more than talk. And I applaud all of those celebrities for being willing to speak out. But we, especially in the African American community, we need to be willing to get the help that we need and not be ashamed of it, because it is killing us, literally and figuratively. It's killing us. And we can do better, and we're entitled to a better quality of life.
Yes, I agree. I agree. You know, it's funny. I'm gonna share this with you, right, Kev? While we having this conversation, yesterday I'm on Clubhouse, right? I'm on
Hmm.
Clubhouse. I get pinged in to anything that has to do with parenting. They ping me, right? So I get pinged in the Clubhouse. These young ladies, they're going and they're, it's all about parents, the whole night. Well, in this room are these three young ladies,
Hmm.
and I mean, the room, I'm sitting there listening. Now, me being the only male in the room,
Hmm.
right? I'm listening to the different stories. You got one story, former prostitution, this, that, and the other. From trafficking. You got another young lady who, she got this situation, right, where her dad passed away. Well, he was a false doctrine preacher. She took
Hmm.
all the, she went to class for him, and then the other lady, she was between both, right? And so,
Hmm.
also on the panel are these other three women who has experienced suicide ideation, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm in the middle, right? What do you say? What do you do, right? So the only thing I can do is what I know to do,
Hmm.
right? Right? First question, then you
Yep.
persuade, then you
Yep.
refer,
Yep.
right? In this case, this was the exact opposite of the whole suicide. This was an exploitation of how I feel, the pain I'm going through, right? And they
Yep.
were expressing the pain, right? And I shared this quote God gave me years ago, right? And this is the quote I shared when I first came on. First, in between them speaking, I kept telling them I love them,
Hmm.
right? So I didn't really get into the speak. I just would pop in and say I love you, right?
Hmm.
To somehow calm, right, before I would speak, because here I am, I'm the male in the room, and males
Hmm.
have affected all of these women in the room, from domestic violence to rape, pimping, human trafficking, right,
Hmm.
abuse, physical, like males have impacted this entire room. And I said, one of the things that I could only say, Kevin, that would offer anything, any hope, because that's what we do. We're in the business of encouragement and hope and making sure that, you see a brighter day, that type of thing. So we
Exactly.
engage, we empower, we do what we do, but we most definitely refer, right?
Yep.
So I say the scars exist from the battles of history, but the triumphs heal all wounds.
Mhm.
That's the quote.
Yep.
Right? Suddenly, the room shifts. Right? And
Yep.
so the one young lady started helping the other young lady. Right? So the first young lady, she pours into the young lady that was going through the trafficking, right? And what happened behind that is systematically what we do. They begin to peer mentor
Yep.
each other to the point that this whole room shifted into relief.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell that story because what you're talking about is we cannot, right? Even though we might feel a certain way, I might feel that Boog is lying, right? I might feel that you you just want some attention or whatever. I cannot say that. I can't say that. I can't vote that because I really don't know. All I can do is really listen and do the part that I know to do and go about my business. Making sure that the people have the resources is what we need to do more than anything. Sharing the resources so we don't lose another.
So, you know what? You made several outstanding points that I want to get back to. Um, the first is it's really important for us to let other people who are struggling emotionally know that we love them and that we care for them and we would miss them if they weren't here. Because here's the thing, and we're going to break down a few myths and stigmas about mental illness and suicide.
Okay.
So 90% of the people who die by suicide, and we say die by suicide, we don't say committed suicide because the fact is, suicide is not a crime.
Right.
So we don't want to say people committed. They died by suicide. But 90% of the people who die by suicide have shown within the year leading up to their death, they've shown some history of mental illness. And this is factual. This is not I'm guessing. This is through what they call a forensic autopsy. This is when we go back and we talk to their doctors and their family members and their loved ones and their boyfriends and girlfriends and all of that. And it comes out that this person shows some sign of depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, something before they took their life.
Mm.
But here's equally as important is that most people who die by suicide don't want to die. The myth is, again, we go back to the stigma. Kevin took the easy way out. Kevin was soft.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin couldn't man up. Most people, and I've dealt with this myself personally. Most people who die by suicide don't want to die. They're trying to end an emotional pain that they feel they can't escape.
Right.
So, and I've been there, and I'll repeat it really briefly for people who don't know my story and haven't seen me on your show before. After I lost my son in 2010, without intent, I became suicidal. I started experiencing suicidal ideation, and I literally planned my suicide. And I went through all the steps, Calvin. I went to the attorneys and got my will drawn up. I set things aside, like I wear St. Christopher's. My St. Christopher's medal is something that I gave both my sons very early on because it is symbolic of our bond. And I wanted my other son to have my St. Christopher's medal. I put things away that I knew my wife would find and say, I want you to have this, and my kids had it. I went through all that planning, not because I wanted to die. I've never wanted to die. I was just experiencing pain and despair that I prayed and cried over and over about. And I literally said, God, if you can't end this pain for me, I have to, because I can't do it every day. I can't get up tomorrow and do it again. So it's really when you talk about peer mentoring and it flipped to healing, Those are the things that we need to understand. Everything about mental illness or suicide prevention is not always clinical. And what I mean, and let me put my disclaimer out there, I am not a doctor, psychiatrist, or anything. I am a mental health and suicide prevention activist and advocate. But what I have learned and what I know from the doctors and people that I do spend time with is most people just need to be heard. It's not that you have to go on medication. I mean, mental illness is like I said, it's a medical diagnosis. So there are certain conditions you have. Maybe if you have a heart attack, you will be hospitalized. And after they get you to a certain point, they say, okay, Kevin, you can leave the hospital, but we're going to put you on medication. And then they say, okay, Kevin, you're going to be on medication, but we're going to send you to physical therapy so you can, build your endurance up again. Same thing happens with mental illness. There are certain forms of mental illness that are so severe that you need to be hospitalized. There's certain forms of mental illness that require medication. And it may not be lifelong because medication is to try to help you get from one point to another, which is a whole different conversation we can have. And then there's some forms of mental illness that you can learn. We call them coping skills, but you can go to therapy. There is DBT therapy, which is dialectical behavioral health therapy. There are a number of therapies out there where we teach people how to cope. So when I feel a panic attack coming on, or I feel myself slipping into this depression, I learn coping skills to pull myself out of that. So, and I'm forgive me for going through all that, but I want people to understand mental illness is like a medical diagnosis and it can be managed. It doesn't mean that your life is over. But again, most people who die by suicide don't want to die. They want to end the pain that they're experiencing. And a lot of us can end that pain by having somebody to talk to, by having a peer mentor, by having somebody we trust and love. I can pick up the phone and call you and say, brother, I'm in a bad place today. And just knowing that you're going to pick up the phone and talk to me may talk me back off the ledge.
Right.
So all of that, and the example you just gave, that's real life stuff that we need to understand. It's real, but it's manageable.
Right. Right. We yesterday, so Clubhouse, we started in December. Me and a brother L and a couple other fathers, we got together and we started Black Fathers Brunch, right? So we right, and it's all about men, right? And it's all about fathers. We don't let no women come up. It's just fathers. We're dealing with the things that we deal with, right?
Yep.
And it's very, very therapeutic. I mean, we have some of the best people across that comes in from all these other communities, sharing their stories, their backstories, their stories. So yesterday we got into the conversation around this very topic, right? What does this room make you feel like, right? Right, because one of the questions I asked the room, Kev, I said, why are men not so collaborative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was a reason for me asking that room, right, that process, but why are men not so collaborative? I got a general idea, right, but I wanted to hear from them, right? And so we got into this whole conversation around it, and a brother out of New Jersey, Dr. Corey, who's over 40 ERs, right, he said, the one thing that I recognize that when I come to this brunch on Sunday, I need this. He said it has become a need because of how I feel when I leave.
Yeah.
Right? And that process was eye-opening to a lot of people. And I said, what's incredible is everybody picks and chooses when they want to come on. But one thing for sure, every Sunday, somebody going to pop that room off. And another part of that is there's going to be so much information generated and shared amongst fathers and men that you walk away, right, with a newfound respect for a number of things. You walk away from, I mean, we've talked about everything from bourbon to the best cigar to, your kids, COVID. I mean, like the topics have been amazing. We had a father that, there's a father who he lost his at the time, his kids, he was 19, had an accident, right? Had an accident. And literally the wife, soon to be wife, passed away in the accident.
Okay.
He's 70. We're still wrestling with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's in this room with the rest of us, right? His son is, pulling him in, pulling him in. And, so this past, he listened in. So now I get the text message, he's going to be on. But my point is, we have to do more talking about our truths. See, this is a truth for me. I struggle, right? So, and even yesterday in that room, Kev, I shared, like you just shared. I was a 10-year-old who thought about suicide.
Mm-hmm.
While I work with kids. I was that 10-year-old, right? I couldn't see my daddy. I had to fight everybody to go see my daddy. Took butt whoopers and everything. Didn't matter. I'm going with my daddy, right? It wasn't until I was this year 55 when I found out why.
Mm-hmm.
I found out why, right? So my brother's godfather tells me, "Oh man, your dad used to get you, dress you. You was his favorite."
Mm-hmm.
I said, now I understand why I was fighting for fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Now I understand why I do this work, right? Is another reason why I do this work, right? But, I say that, man, because these are the things that we need, right? That's what you're pretty much sharing here today. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, again, this is why I enjoy having conversation with you, because we are very much like mine. So let's go back to your fatherhood brunch. Um, and the question you asked, why don't men collaborate? Because we've been bred to be competitive, to compete against each other instead of collaborate, work with each other, and help build each other up. I'm one of those people who truly believes there's enough to go around for all of us. I'm
Yes, sir.
not going to, I don't want to succeed at your expense. I don't want to put Calvin Mann down so Kevin Fisher can be um, seen as successful, because to me, that's not true success. If I know I put another man down so I can appear to be successful, then that's not success. That's weakness to me, quite frankly.
Right.
So, there's a lot of talk right now. I call it toxic masculinity. And different people frame it different ways. At the end of the day, and especially this applies to all men, but especially to us as black men, because one of the good things that has come out of the turmoil in this country in the last 18 months is that we finally recognize that racism is a public health crisis.
Yes.
Black people we have normalized trauma, and we live with a trauma that the rest of America does not live with. And it tears our families apart. When you want to start talking about fatherless homes, when you want to start talking about poverty, when you want to start talking about domestic violence and all that, I'm not making excuses for anybody. But a lot of that is tied to the trauma caused by racism and the fact that we get so frustrated because we want to be good fathers to our children. We want to be providers to our families. Um, and then when we see that we're trying to work hard and not getting ahead, it gets frustrating, it gets out of control. And we have to learn how to manage that trauma. And one of the ways to do that, Calvin, is really through opportunities like your brunch. Men need to get together in fellowship, because it is one of the most powerful things that I've ever witnessed in my life. And I've been a part of a number of men's series, things like your brunch. Um, and men get together, and like you said, it has to be exclusive to men, because with all due respect to women, they won't understand this and they don't know how to handle this. And one of the things really quickly that I learned, when I lost my son, I went to there's a national organization called Compassionate Friends, and it's for parents who've lost children for any reason. And one of the things that I learned when I went to that group was men and women grieve very differently. And I could not stand to be in the room with the women. The way they express their grief is very different than men. But when men get together, it is incredibly powerful. We cry. We find ways to hold each other up and encourage each other and we're not competitive. Again, I want to see you be successful. That
Right.
makes me feel more successful. That actually inspires me to go out and do more. So we need that. And when we start talking again about suicide, and for the listening audience, for those who don't know, September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So that's why we're having this conversation. But within our community, and the numbers are staggering. A lot of people don't think Black people die by suicide.
Mm.
Yeah, we do. And in the last 20 years, the numbers have gotten so much worse. For example, you and I have talked about this before. In the United States, the suicide rate for African American boys between the age of 5 and 12 is twice what it is for Caucasian boys, same age.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 20 years, the suicide rate for the general population has increased by about 35%, 33 to 35%. In the
Mm-hmm.
African American community, it's 78%,
Mm-hmm.
more than double the national average. And the fact is, we lose 2.5 times more people to suicide in this country every year than we do to homicide. But when you turn on the 6 o'clock news, first thing we talk about is homicides.
Homicide. Yep.
But we will lose 50,000 people to suicide in this country this year and only lose about 21,000 people to homicide. All you hear on the news is how bad the homicide problem is in Chicago and Detroit and Memphis and all that. But nobody talks about the suicide
The
rate is
suicide.
twice the homicide rate.
5 to 100 males are number one,
Yep.
regardless to culture.
Oh, well, and then men die by suicide. Men account for about 75 to 80% of all deaths by suicide in this country. And that is because, and we can't let the numbers fool you, women attempt suicide at a greater rate, but men, and I don't even like this term, men complete suicide at a 5 or 4 to 1 rate. And that's because we use more lethal methods. We
Yeah.
use firearms. We
Yes.
die by hanging. Women tend to still use pills and that kind of thing. But ladies, let me tell you, y'all closing the gap. Women are starting to catch up. So I say all that, and I know those are depressing statistics, but you got to know where you are before you can try to get better. And the fact is, and I'm gonna go back to this. I didn't say it earlier, but I should have. We need to understand that suicide is preventable. There are people who believe that if Kevin wants to kill himself, there's nothing that's going to stop him. Nothing could be further from the truth. Suicide is one of the most preventable causes of death in the world because, again, most people don't want to die. They want help. They want to be heard. They need to be heard.
Right.
And if I have a brother or sister or counselor or doctor or pastor or somebody who I can call when I'm in that space, or if I have somebody who recognizes, Kevin, you don't quite seem yourself lately. You okay? We need to do that, and we need to not just do it on a superficial level. We always, hey bro, how you doing? And we most of the time we don't even listen to the answer. We move on. But when we know our loved ones, friends, family, when you know somebody's struggling, get real with them and say, man, you haven't been yourself lately, and I'm concerned about you. And I want to know, are you in a good place? And then, and the really interesting thing, if you ask somebody directly, are you considering killing yourself? Are you experiencing suicidal thoughts? If you ask directly, most people will give you an honest answer. Most people who are will tell you, yeah. And if they tell you that, then you have to be willing, and you talked about QPR before, um, uh, question, persuade, respond. The response has to be, don't say, hey, Kev, bro, you need to go talk to somebody. You say, no, let me take you. Let me go with you. Don't leave it up to me because you already know I'm in a bad place. If you were experiencing the symptoms of a heart attack right now, I wouldn't say, hey, Calvin, you should go get yourself checked out.
Right.
I would like, bruh, I'm calling 911 right now. I'm
Yeah.
getting you some help. I'm 100 miles away from you, but I'm still gonna call.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. That's how we have to treat that. So forgive me for being long-winded, but I want people to understand suicide is preventable. Don't just walk away and say, hey, he said he's gonna kill himself. Ain't nothing I can do. Yes, you can.
We most definitely, right. When you become an adult, I guess that's the term. When you become an adult, you have to do adult things. That's what the Bible say, right? You put aside childish things, right? So these are some of the things. Now, I am a silly person. I'm funny, right? Everybody know I like to laugh, right? But
Yep.
in these situations, right, we're serious, right? So
Yep.
understand that this conversation is important. This is why I'm always wanting to get your perspective and get the information that you have to offer in this area, right? The reason why we do, Suicide Prevention Month. There's a reason why we're doing 10,000 gifts of encouragement, right? And who do you know who needs a gift of encouragement? Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So if you not looking at what we're doing, still give a gift of encouragement to someone you know, even if you're not using EMIY, right? Still give that gift because you never know. One thing we know for sure: if you say hello, right, just your energy itself goes up from common courtesy,
Yep.
right? So, just listening to the statistics, the new information that people don't necessarily get. This conversation, our previous conversations, right, where they're
Mm-hmm.
not taking the time to learn new information, right? I so I did some research today, right? So I went looking for this is real. I went looking for locations where I laid shirts where kids were
Mm-hmm.
getting killed. I was only looking for 3 specifically. I was looking where the 15-year-old was killed by his father. I was looking for the little girl that was set on fire on Waverly, and I was looking for I forget what the third one was. Is in my phone, right? But I was looking for those 3 specifically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found them. I found all 3, right? The 15-year-old, the little girl, and then the third one, right? And what as I was looking, Kevin, as I was looking, all I could think about was suicidal decisions. All I saw as I'm doing this research, all I saw was babies
Mm-hmm.
dying, being killed,
Yep.
house fires, suicidal decisions. Sometimes, we didn't have the alarm, the smoke detector, right? I saw so much of it, like it really blew me away. It took me back for the reason why I started. So I kind of, as I'm looking and I'm going through these, man, I'm typing in and I'm just going through and I'm going, wow. Now I typed in 4-year-old
Mm-hmm.
and then it dawned on me. So as we're working, the wife, she jumps on more information about suicide. Me, I
Mm-hmm.
type in 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
What an astonishing revelation in research on how we are killing children.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And so, again, Encourage Me, I'm Young was started on this, 2004, right? But as I was
Mm-hmm.
going through this research, it was mind-boggling, right? And so to get to that space, here we are back. Let's deal with the stigma, because the stigma is the thing that is preventing people from helping other people get the help that they need. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have when we was in here the other day and Miles said they did something crazy about research and 70% of the city was illiterate or something like that, right? Okay, I said, well, wow, that's a suicidal decision, right?
Yep.
So let's get to the stigma. This is your baby. Everybody
Yeah.
versus stigma. I really want you to elaborate on that.
So everybody versus stigma was literally born um, back in March of this year. Well, it really goes back before then. So in my affiliation with NAMI as the executive director, we host an event called NAMI Walks every year, which is a mental health awareness raising walk, like the breast cancer awareness walks and those kinds of things.
Right.
Each year, I have a personal team, and every year we create a different T-shirt. Every team creates a T-shirt for their team. In 2018, my slogan was "Everybody versus Stigma" because it sounds so simple and cliche, but it is the number one barrier that prevents people from seeking the help that they need. So I did the Everybody versus Stigma shirt for my walk team in 2018. I really didn't do anything with it beyond that until March of this year. We were talking about COVID and how many kids were still experiencing anxiety, depression, and all the stuff, whether they were in school, doing virtual learning, isolated from their friends and all that. And I was literally sitting in the sauna, and I just, God kept speaking to me and said, "You got to do something." And it just hit me again. I was like, "You need to go pull Everybody versus Stigma out of the closet, and get that out there." And here's the thought process behind it is simply that for so many people who feel like they're alone, they feel like they're the only one experiencing, whether it's suicidal thoughts, whether it's, you feel like you're the only one who's experiencing schizophrenia or depression or anxiety. I was like, I just don't want people to feel alone. So if you see someone wearing this shirt, whether it's your family member or not, you simply know you're not alone. And again, it sounds cliche, but I've been doing this again since March. And I will tell you, I had people stopping me in the airport. I had to apologize to 2 cashiers at Meijer because I purposely put the shirt on and went to the grocery store early on a Saturday morning just to see what reaction I would get. One lady stopped me, and it's kind of funny. The most common question I'm asked is, what is stigma? Stigma is a mark of shame. Stigma is making somebody feel less than. It's making somebody feel like something is their fault. But then, when I explained that, I said, well, I'm a mental health and suicide prevention advocate. Then she was like, oh my God, I got a niece that's experienced depression. Well,
Yes.
somebody else was walking by and said, hey, did I hear you say something about mental illness? So they jumped in the conversation. And then somebody else, and next thing I know, I got 20 people standing around me, and I'm blocking 2 checkout lanes. And we're talking about mental health resources and the stigma associated with mental illness. So that's why this is very simple, but it works. And so the message again is simply, if you see somebody in an Everybody is Stigma T-shirt, hat, whatever the case may be, you're not alone. And if you go to our website, everybodyversusstigma.com, it'll connect you to my NAMI website. I wear a lot of hats. The beautiful thing about NAMI, and you're right, it's not well known enough. NAMI's been around for 40 years, and like I said, we're the largest grassroots advocacy organization. Not enough people know about us because NAMI is all about resources. If you call my office, if you call a local NAMI affiliate and say, hey, I need to know where I can get mental health resources for myself, and not just mental health, not just clinical. I need housing, I need food. Because here's the thing that we understand. It's hard enough for a person to deal with the fact that they or somebody they love might be dealing with mental illness. But then it's, well, if I'm homeless, if I'm hungry, if I don't have care for my children, I'm not going to be trying to focus on making it to my therapist. I have all these other needs to be addressed. We connect you with all of those resources. And though people believe, especially here in the state of Michigan, that a lot of mental health resources went away in the 90s when former Governor Engler closed most of the state hospitals. And that's true. We lost some resources, but we do have resources. I don't want people to think that there are none and that you have to have expensive insurance. We have in the state of Michigan a $3 billion behavioral health care safety net called Community Mental Health. And whether you're in Detroit, where Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network, or Oakland County, or whoever, there are 46 community mental health offices across the state of Michigan that will get you the help that you need. And then, our good friend Michael Garrett, who's the CEO over at CNS Healthcare, they are what's called a certified community behavioral health care center or clinic. Those were established by Senator Debbie Stabenow about 5 years ago. Michigan now has about 30 of them. But if you have behavioral health care needs, whether it's mental illness, substance use disorder, whatever it may be, if you go to a CCBHC or Certified Community Behavioral Health Care Clinic, they will provide care for you regardless of the severity of your diagnosis, regardless of your insurance status, and regardless of your ability to pay. So they will take care of you whether you have insurance, money, or not. And we need to understand what resources we have available to us, because all of this mental health stuff we're talking about, I'm trying to get us to prevention. Right now, as a country, we are reactive to mental illness. We only respond, if you think about it, we respond to mental health crisis. We call the police when Kevin is off his medication and my wife can't control me and all of that. We need to move the pendulum to prevention, where when we know Kevin has a mental health diagnosis and we know Kevin's not taking his medication, let's get Kevin help at the beginning, not when he's walking around with a gun to his head, not when he's threatening to kill his wife and his kids. Then it's too late. We need to be preventive, not reactive. CCBHCs and many other services that community mental health provides us are preventative measures that we can take, where we can improve the quality of life and we can save lives.
So that's the reason why I said you and I, we got to do some commercials. Like, we got to really put together some commercials, right? So the faces that they see, the people, right, are the sincerity of people. It's not the people that, oh man, they just talking to be talking, or all them, right? We don't fit the conspiracy. We're sincerely coming to you, and somehow, some way, we got to put those in rotation. We got to start getting these commercials in front of the internet, in front of the TV. Like, we got to really, because that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's the reason why I'm doing the Emmy song, right? Really to bring light that we don't have to, like you said, there are resources out here, but you got to be able to get to them, and you got to be able to use them. And when we talk about prevention, my God, man, prevention. Let's go. On the prevention. Let's really make things happen before they're happening. Right. Let's really look at that, because it's just like the conversation I'm always having. Why is literacy the way it is? Because we're expecting someone else to teach the child. The child should be able to already have been prepared before they walk into school and have some form of reading. So that is just an add-on. You should not be counting on the school to teach your child to read. You should be teaching your child to read, and you should be taking some more reading, and we should be reading even more. I believe reading, right? As I said, reading is life, but I believe it is so impactful, right, that the only conversation that a lot of people have is the racism conversation, the struggle conversation. So because that's the only information you have, that's the only information somebody else told you, and that's the only thing that's your calling card, or that's what you're going to use. But let's get some other tools, right? Let's get in some of this prevention work. That's why I really go so hard for these boys, right, in this mentor. And let me tell you something, man. I really feel like I'm not doing enough, right?
Yeah.
I say this to my team. I say this to my wife. I say this to the board. I don't think that we're doing enough. Yeah. We got a caller, Kev.
Go ahead.
They hung up.
Okay. Well, let me jump in. Oh, is the caller there?
No, the caller.
Okay. Well, let me jump in, because, again, you and I have so many similarities. This is not a career. This is not about making money for people like you or me. This is a passion for wanting to save lives and improve the quality of life. And again, Calvin, you hit on so many important points. We should be reading to our children. Educate. And I saw something on social media the last night or this morning that kind of made me chuckle. But I'm gonna paraphrase it, but it was basically saying education should be as important at home as it is at school. Like you said, parents, we send our kids to school with the expectation that the school is going to pour everything into them that they need. But they need to see that at home. We should be reading to our kids, not just playing video games. I have a 20-month-old grandson, and it is amazing. He will go and get a book and put it in. He does it more with my wife than me, quite frankly. But he will put it in our hand, and he will sit up like he in class, and he like, "You need to read to me."
Right.
We need to do that. Kids are eager to learn, and they want that attention from us. And us parents have to be willing to invest. I know we got a lot of stuff going on, a lot, but I'm one of the people who believes we make time for what is important to us. And if our children are truly important to us, and if most parents' dream or philosophy is, well, I want my kids to have a better life than I had. Okay, let's have that conversation. Are we saying we want them to truly have a better life, or you want them to have an easier life? And I'll just cut right to the chase. Getting your kid the latest pair of Jordans or Yeezys or whatever they are, that's not making their life better. Getting the new Xbox that came out, that them being the first one on the block to have it, that's not making their life better. You spending quality time with your child is making their life better. You providing a stable home environment where they feel secure. I know, Calvin, you know what ACEs is, adverse childhood experiences. And for the listening audience, it ACEs is all about the trauma we experience in our childhood has a literally lifelong effect on us emotionally and physically. And we need to reduce that trauma we're exposing our kids to. Hug them, love them, tell them you love them, make them a part of Little League, take them to a mentor. If you're in a single parent home and you need that male role model, then take them to EMIY, take them to a mentor program, invest time in them. I can't tell you how many times I coached Little League. I did all that stuff with my kids. And then when it got to a point where it was beyond my knowledge level, whether they needed a tutor for school or a pitching coach or whatever, I can't tell you how many hours I logged sitting in the car because I took my kids to get them the resources that they need. And that's what my father did for me. And for the listening audience, I want people to know I'm not a silver spoon. I grew up in Highland Park. My father had a 6th grade education. My mother had a 10th grade education. My father would go to parent-teachers conference and tell the teacher, I can't help Kevin with algebra because I don't know it, but I can get him the help that he needs. And I'm going to send my kid to school prepared to learn. If he up here clowning and disrupting the class, call me one time. I'll fix that. Kevin will have a new attitude tomorrow. And we knew what that was all about. That belt was coming.
Right.
But beyond that, my father, and like I said, I got to be real with people because I get so frustrated because not to be judgmental at people, but because we're missing opportunities. And my father, I lost my father when I was 15 years old, still the greatest man I ever met. And here's why. One, I know he experienced deep racism because he came from the South and he didn't pass that hate on to me. The other thing is my father said, I don't have all the tools. I don't have the education and knowledge to help you, but I'm smart enough to get you those resources. Too many of us parents right now, quite frankly, we're holding our kids back because we got held back. For whatever reason, we got to be willing to break that cycle and invest in our kids and say, I only made it to the 6th grade, but I'm going to see to it that my child graduate high school. And I'm going to get him or her whatever tools they need. That, ladies and gentlemen, is suicide prevention. That, ladies and gentlemen, is trauma reduction. That, ladies and gentlemen, is behavioral health prevention, not reaction. You don't want to see 70% of the kids in juvenile have underlying mental health diagnosis. So how do you keep your kid out of juvie? Don't expose them to trauma. Expose them to the good stuff. And I ain't talking about the video games and the gym shoes.
Hey, you hit it on the nail, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my friend and brother. One day partner, we gonna get it in. I love you, brother. And
I love you back because I'm
I
like
just
you.
man, I
I'm sorry
just
to cut you off. Ain't
man,
enough hours in the day. I can't do enough. That's why I'm always on the road.
right, right. And I just that whole last couple of minutes, that's it right there, right? When you do the preventive work, education is one of them, right? Reading is another,
Yep.
right? How you live in front of them, right? Stop some of these things, right, that you think that you have to hang on to, because the hanging on to what happened to you in the past and not getting help is going to only create more damage. So Kevin Fisher, man, we appreciate you, man. We know
I
you
love
doing
you.
your thing, man. I truly appreciate you, man.
I love you. Appreciate all that you're doing, and we're gonna keep working together. We're gonna keep doing it as long as God give me the strength to do it, man. We're gonna keep doing it until we get it figured out.
That's right. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kevin Fisher. Appreciate you, man. So
Thank you.
before we always sign off with an understanding. That
Hmm.
understanding is you must seek new information. You must improve yourself so you can improve the lives of these children. It's one thing to point the finger, it's another thing not to do the work. We're losing
Well,
far too many kids. We're
yes,
losing
sir.
far too many families. And we're losing far too many men. And
Yes,
so
sir.
I just want you to take this time. We have to change how we see family.
Yep.
And I hope you start today. My name is Calvin Mann. I'm the president and founder of Encourage Me I'm Young. Put your family first. Peace.